Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video, we're discussing The 7 Skins of Esther Wilding, written by Holly Ringland. It's shortlisted for the Indie Book Awards this year. It's a general fiction book. It deals with themes of grief, forgiveness, just trying to come to terms with someone's death, basically. That's what it deals with a lot in this book. It also ties in things about myth and fairy tale and legend, a lot of folklore from different countries, including Australia. And the imagery in this book is quite vivid. It's very colourful. It kind of hits you in the face sometimes, imagery in this story. But the descriptions sometimes are overdone and repetitive. It's too wordy in many parts of this book and lets it down a little bit in the story. I think it could have done with a tighter edit, this book. But overall, it is a good read. It's fascinating in many parts. It's captivating, especially towards the start. It captivated me towards the start more than the end. But overall, it's a good book. It's worth reading if you like this type of book. If you don't like this type of book, I don't think you'll get much from it. I think you may finish it part way through and not get to the end. But anyway, let's talk about the book in more detail. Aura Wilding is missing, presumed dead. She's been missing for about a year. Esther is her younger sister. There's about 3 years difference in age between the two sisters, and Esther has spent her life, her childhood, basically trying to catch up to her sister, trying to get her sister's attention, and other times they've been very close. Sometimes they've been further away a bit in their relationship with each other, but they've been pretty good siblings as they've been growing up. Aura did go away to university. She went overseas to university, actually, to Denmark, and then she returned, and when she returned, she was very distant. She didn't talk to anybody. She wasn't herself. And then, not long after that, she vanished. And they found her clothing and shoes near the ocean. The people think that she just walked into the ocean and vanished. So 12 months later, we start this story. Esther is heading back home to her family's home, her childhood home. And the reason is because they're having a memorial for Aura, for Esther's sister. So it's the first time she's been back home for about 12 months or so, and she's not looking forward to it. And you feel her trepidation in this story. The first part of this book really grabbed me. It was really captivating and really gripping. And Esther was an engaging character in this first part of the story. And that's, for me, the strongest part of the story, is this first part, where she's heading back to her family home, her childhood home, and she's dealing with all the emotions about that. A few sudden things happen while she's going home. I won't go into the detail of what happens, but it ties into then to folklore and myth from Indigenous Australians as well, coming to that, their folklore and their myth into this part of the story. And I did find that fascinating. I liked how the author tied in all these myths and folklores from many different cultures and many different countries into this story. About a third of the way into this book, we find out the true reason Esther has been asked back to her family home. It's not just for the memorial. There's another reason that her parents wanted her to come home. And that's because they've found a journal written by Aura. And in this journal, there are some mysterious lines. There are 7 of them. And Aura called it the 7 skins. And it's just 7 lines about a bond between a woman and some sort of entity or creature in the ocean under the waves. And about either losing yourself or finding strength. So all these messages meant something to Aura. And she drew pictures or put pictures into her journal about those 7 messages as well. And then she also had those 7 lines tattooed on her skin. And it meant something strong to Aura, but nobody seems to know what it meant. It's very mysterious. So part of this book becomes about trying to solve that mystery. What did those 7 lines mean to Aura? So Esther has been asked to go overseas to Denmark and do a bit of digging, a bit of research into her sister's life, to try to find out what her sister was doing over there. Did something in Denmark happen to her sister, and when she came back, she was different? Nobody seems to know that. it's not written anywhere or didn't tell anybody. She was quite distant about what went over there in Denmark when she was living there for about 2 years, I think. So Esther does go over to Denmark, to Copenhagen, and she does try to delve into her sister's life. She's staying with a great aunt, I think it is, in Copenhagen. And this great aunt is quite a character, and I'll go into her more in the section on characters. But she's a standout character to me in this story, the great aunt. I liked her a lot. And while Esther is over in Copenhagen, she does find out more about her sister, and I won't dive into what she finds out, because that's, I guess, one of the central tenets of this story. One of the reasons you want to read this. You want to find out what happened to Wara overseas. And it makes some of the biggest moments in this story. Even though the imagery is well done in this book, I mean, the writing is quite clever. It's very poetic and lyrical in sections, quite a lot of sections actually, but it's very wordy, over-wordy. I think it could have been just cut down a bit, because that over-wordiness just distracts a bit, I think, from the story and from those themes and those concepts the author's trying to bring into the story. Also, there are sections that just take you out of the story as well. There's descriptions of parties happening and many parties, and it rips you out of the story. And also some of the actions that the main character Esther does in the story rips you out of the story as well, because they don't seem to fit. They don't seem to fit with a character we're meant to feel empathy with. And I found that strange. I found the Esther character quite strange interactions, the way she's written into this book. After reading this book, I spent a bit of time thinking about the characters. I was just thinking about, did I find them engaging? Did I like the characters in this book? What did I like about them, and what didn't I like? And I'll discuss some of that in the section on characters. But overall, in this story, I don't think I liked many of the characters very much. I didn't find many of them engaging for the whole story. Some I found engaging towards the start. Some I didn't find engaging or like at all. And I found that very strange in this book. In a book where it's heavy on emotion and drama, and I'd say melodrama more than drama, it's heavy on those elements in this book. And that means you're meant to get behind the characters, you're meant to feel empathy for them, you're meant to engage with them. But I found that a struggle for me. And that's because of the way the characters are written, their personalities, the whole characterization of these people in this book. It put me off some of them. And I just wonder what other people think about that. Do other people read the characters and think the same as me, or do they have different thoughts about the characters? That'd be interesting to know. Esther, who's the main character, at the very start of this book, and say maybe for the first 100 pages or so, I found her very engaging. I was right behind her. Her feelings were so clear and vivid. Everything she felt came through. And you felt empathy for her. I mean, you felt her trepidation. You felt just a bit of fear about coming back home. But then it unraveled a little bit, and I just got to experience the Esther that was self-indulgence and just self-destruction, basically, and doing all these things and expecting everyone to forgive her. And that's what this book seemed to be. It seemed to be Esther just performing badly, behaving badly, doing things that she knew she shouldn't be doing, and doing things that hurt other people all the time, and then asking for forgiveness. And that got a bit tiring. It was this constant cycle that went on and on in the story. And I don't think that gelled really well with a character that's trying to come to terms with grief and understanding about the disappearance and loss of her sister. Abalone, who's the great aunt in Copenhagen, I like this character very much. She's only there for a short time in the story, but she stands out a lot. And when she's there, I think she takes over the book. She's very striking as a character, very vividly portrayed, very strong. She has a few little kind of comic relief moments in the book as well, and I think that's one of her purposes in the story. But also she's there as a bit of a rock, a bit of an anchor point in Copenhagen for the main character. But again, she's a character who's there to forgive the main character. The main character expects that from her all the time. So that's where it's a bit strange in the story. But overall, I liked Abalone as a character. I liked her very much. Nin, who's one of Esther's friends back home in Tasmania. I liked Nin a lot, and for me, she's one of the standout characters in this book. one of the reasons I like her so much is with her comes this imagery and about these necklaces made of seashells. And they're described as being very vibrant and very intricate necklaces and designed all different ways. And with Nin, you get all that imagery. And you get that culture and that myth and that folklore from Indigenous Australia as well. And I like the way the author tied in all that with the Nin character. Nin for me is a standout, one of the best characters in this book. On the whole, I'll say this is a good story. It's not great, it's not extraordinary, it's good. It's a solid book, better than average. But it's overwordy, and the author should have just toned it down a bit. Somebody really should have got there during editing and said, cut out bits here and there. Let's make it less wordy and more succinct, because it did need that in the book. I rate it a 3 out of 5. The imagery is good. I like the whole myth and folklore and all that element coming in for different cultures into the story. That just made it something a bit more special. I like some of the characters, but most of the characters I don't like, and that includes the main character. The main character overall for me is a bit of a mess. The start very good, and then everything else after that is just unraveling in the story. On my channel, I review books from all different genres. Check out my channel and subscribe. I'm sure you'll find something you like.